Welcome to ohmTown. Hello, hello. I'll let this play again. Welcome to ohmTown. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. Sorry. I looked at my browser and I realized that I just scared myself because I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Run! Welcome to ohmTown, the ohmTown Daily News Show. Today, why isn't the chat working? This is for October 4th, 2022. And I just had garlic bread. Is that oversharing? I don't know. Anyway, already selected a bunch of news, and let's just get into it. Today has been a really long day. There are lots of meetings in ohmTown, and I've been running around kind of ragged. So while I have energy to chat and all that, let's see how far into the news we can get it. The first article is it's in the wanted channel. It's because it got filtered into there because of a particular source, which is Ars Technica. But if you have never had the need for a Raspberry Pi, yet they were all over the place, then maybe you feel my pain now that you need one right now and they are nowhere to be found. Shortages for lots of tech components, including things like DDR5 and GPUs, have eased quite a bit since the beginning of 2022, and prices have managed to go down as availability improves. Not for Raspberry Pi, so still can't buy a Raspberry Pi board. Things aren't getting better anytime soon. I've actually switched to Arduino. The most recent update on the situation comes from Raspberry Pi founder Eben Upton via YouTuber Jeff Geerling. Upton told Geerling that Pi boards are subject to the same supply constraints that were there in April. The last time he wrote the post about the situation, around 400,000 Pi boards are being produced per month, and some of these, that's a lot, and some of these are being earmarked to be sent out to consumer retail sites. But Upton says that most of these are still being reserved for and sold to commercial customers who rely on Pi boards for their businesses. I have a project that I would like to use Raspberry Pi for. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, so I'm actually switching it to Arduino. Now, if you click the link, you'll get taken over to Andrew Cunningham's article that snippet was taken from over at arstechnica.com. So, as usual, you follow the link. I'm actually going to start doing something called Showbot. And if you can actually do !S and then pretty much a title or something else that you want to say, and you can put it in there for a vote. We'll see if it can ramp up to be something. Otherwise, we'll see. If you type in ! Showbot, it'll actually say what the syntax is for how to do this. I was planning on putting the articles in there and people can vote for the articles themselves. I might end up hiding the chat from now on as well. I don't know. I'm getting distracted by other things going on in ohmTown. So let's get back to the articles. Still can't buy a Raspberry Pi board. Things aren't getting any better anytime soon. Let's see if there's something else in here. If you're trying to buy a Raspberry Pi in the US or other regions, I guess it's our Pi Locator spreadsheet can be a valuable resource. I think that's how it's pronounced, RPI Locator. So yeah, that's what it's actually called, Raspberry Pi Locator. If you go to rpilocator.com, that will be a spreadsheet apparently. According to the tracker, there are a few Pi 4 boards of any stripe were available to buy through September though, and if you're looking to buy a specific RAM capacity, you'll be stuck waiting even longer. Hence the reason why I switched to Arduino. If I can make it happen. I don't know. A different purpose, specialized purpose for my project, but it is what it is. Let's move on to the next article. This next article, and I have about 10 of them. I thought this was interesting because I'm actually, I've designed boards in the past, keyboards in the past, piano keyboards as well. But this is called the G board. Google Japan's absurdly long stick keyboard is actually real. I had no idea it was even there. In a delightful video from Google Japan, spotted by Tom's Hardware, you can see this new design in action, as well as have the rationale, I suppose, there's a missing E, explained to you in increasingly unhinged methods. I won't play the video. You can go check it out. I don't normally grab the video as well in my articles. But when you click the link, you get taken over to PCGamer.com, and Hope Corrigan is the author of this article. And she also says you can get all the DIY info you need to make one yourself. So this might be fun to actually do. I'm going to go and check it out when I'm done here. I also have another meeting that I need to go to. Google has released a new keyboard with a unique take on ergonomic design rather than group the keys in stacked rows like we're used to. This keyboard cleverly places all of the keys in a line from left to right. It makes for a stick-shaped board that is 1.65 meters long, sporting all the keys you'd need on a normal keyboard positioned in series. Suppose if you reduce the size of these things, you can still get it all done. Let's hope that it doesn't need a Raspberry Pi to make happen. Because if it does, you're up a creek. Because you can't get them according to the last article. Well, you can get this. Google isn't selling it, but instead has uploaded the DIY project to GitHub so anyone can have a go. And looking at the listing, it's immediately clear that way too much thought was put into this project. Well, I'm excited about it. I want to see what it looks like. I'll probably end up building one myself. Next article is Philippines lottery. I think that Bruce Almighty has made everybody's dream come true over in the Philippines, because questions have been raised about the jackpot as hundreds win. This is the most number of winners the Philippines has seen in its history, according to local media. Not just a few, not a couple dozen, not a couple hundred, but 433 people hit the jackpot. It's surprised the country and triggered scrutiny as what amounts to sets of 9. So multiples of 9, sorry. Multiples of 9 led to 433 winners, so 9, 18, 27. I thought it was really interesting. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54 were the winning numbers. I think the total amount was 236 million peso, or $4 million US, 3.5 million pounds, and the jackpot was spread across 433 people. So everybody's getting $20. Just kidding. A little bit more than that. And then there's taxes and whatever else. The organizer said the winners collected 5.7... Oh, wait, this is a different one. It's not the first time lottery has seen an unusual pattern or a sequence of numbers drawn. There were accusations of fraud after 20 people shared the jackpot in South Africa's national lottery in December 2020, when the numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 were drawn. Oh, I need to go change my password. But the winners collected 5.7 million rand, or $370,000. If you use that password, at my bank account, you will get considerably less than $370,000. Hate to break it to you, but you might get charged as a federal crime for unauthorized access. More than 4,000 correctly picked 5 out of 6 numbers, all multiples of 7, and ended up collecting just 15 pounds each in a lucky number, well, a lotto that drew in March 2016 in the UK. 4,000 people picked 5 out of 6 numbers. Can you imagine waking up, hearing that you won the lotto, call into work and say, "Screw you, I quit," and then find out you won 15 pounds? That would be horrible. I'm doing it tomorrow. Just kidding. So the next article is in the Mobile Channel. At NYU, students were failing organic chemistry, and who's to fault? Maitland Jones Jr., a respected professor, defended his standards, but students started a petition and the university dismissed him. I was curious about this. A respected professor defended his standards, was dismissive, according to some reports. Students said Maitland Jones's course was too hard and blamed him and his teaching methods for their poor showings. This is an article by Stephanie Saul. I don't think I said who the last article was from. So the Philippines lottery, questions raised as hundreds win the jackpot, was written by Annabelle Liang, who is a business reporter for BBC. Apologies for skipping over that. Let me see if there's another one. Nope. I'm all caught up. So this article, at NYU, students were failing organic chemistry. Who was to blame? Well, the students banded together and blamed the professor. Stephanie Saul is the writer of the article over at NewYorkTimes.com. In the field of organic chemistry, Maitland Jones Jr. has a storied reputation. He taught the subject for decades, first at Princeton and then at New York University, and wrote an influential textbook. He receives awards for his teaching, as well as recognition as one of NYU's coolest professors. But last spring, as the campus emerged from the pandemic, 82 of his 350 students signed a petition against him. The students said, high-stakes course, notorious for ending many a dream of medical school, was too hard, blaming Dr. Jones for their poor test scores. The professor defended his standards, but just before the start of the fall semester, university deans terminated Jones's contract. If you're not tenure, you're screwed, and if you don't get tenure unless you publish, really, it's publish or perish in a tenure track. You have to do fundamental research. You have to be politically connected. You have to be kind of within that whole nepotism kind of a circle. I'm not a big fan of either. But anyway, the professor defended his standards, but just before the start, they terminated, and the officials also had tried to placate the students by offering to review their grades and allowing them to withdraw from the class retroactively. And the chemistry department's chairman, Mark E. Tuckerman, said the unusual offer to withdraw was a one-time exception granted to students by the dean of the college. I believe this kind of treatment is going around quite a bit because school is expensive, and sometimes professors act as gatekeepers. In particular fields, it's even a higher rate of this gatekeeping, depending on where you are. Not every professor is very open-armed about their students in terms of extensions and communication and interaction, but when you have 350 students, you really do run short of time and patience. Maybe with TAs, you could probably, make ends meet, but usually your hourly rate is quite low as a professor, or even grade school teachers have very low hourly rates when all all is said and done and the time sink is all calculated out. Dr. Jones is known for changing the way that the subject is taught, in addition to writing a 1,300-page textbook called Organic Chemistry. Now in its 5th edition, he pioneered a new method of instruction and relied less on rote memorization and more on problem solving. Agree, this is probably the best way. My perspective is that you have to teach people to think like a problem solver and not necessarily just do what is necessary to jump through the flaming hoop to get a grade. It serves no purpose if the only way that a person knows how to do something is the ABCs of the exercise at hand, leading to rote memorization. After retiring from Princeton in 2007, he taught organic chemistry at NYU on a series of yearly contracts. About a decade ago, he said in an interview, he noticed a loss of focus among the students, even as more of them enrolled in the class. So let's see here. Yeah, pandemic this, pandemic that. To ease pandemic stress, Dr. Jones and 2 other professors taped 52 organic chemistry lectures. This is probably an ongoing trend. Dr. Jones said that he personally paid more than $5,000 for the videos and that they are still used by the university. That's quite upsetting because I don't think that should take place. You're employed to teach. You're not employed to make OER content. That wasn't enough. In 2020, some 30 students out of 475 filed a petition asking for more help, said Dr. Aurora, who taught the class with Dr. Jones. They were really struggling, he explained. They didn't have good internet coverage at home, all sorts of things. That is called the technology divide. When you don't have access to the technology that you need so that you can access the class, that is provable in the research. And unfortunately, not every school takes that to heart and offers up a solution proactively. And definitely the students don't say, hey, I really want to do my work. I really don't want to make an excuse to not do my work. So, I'm reaching out immediately. No, they wait until the last minute. The building is already burned to the ground, and that's when they say, hey, I need some water. And that's pretty standard. That's pretty typical. The ones that do reach out get a solution. And unfortunately, it doesn't always happen proactively by a student or the institution to make it known that there are solutions in some schools, not all schools. So by spring 2022, the university was returning with fewer COVID restrictions, but the anxiety continued and students seemed disengaged. They weren't coming to class, that's for sure, because I can count the house, Dr. Jones said in an interview. They weren't watching the videos and they weren't able to answer the questions. It seems to me like he's actually pretty right. Students could choose between 2 sections, one focused on problem solving, the other on traditional lectures. Students in both sections shared problems on a GroupMe chat and began venting about the class. Those texts kickstarted the petition submitted in May. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that if Dr. Jones had I don't know how to say this. I guess played ball with the school, I think it would have been nothing. But unfortunately, it says NYU is evaluating so-called stumble courses, those in which a higher percentage of students get D's or F's. Yeah, I don't know if they're called stumble courses everywhere, but they're definitely gatekeeping courses. It's not unheard of that an institution can be pretty relaxed about the grades so to speak, until the gatekeeping class where a professor is tenure and provides so much for the institution that nobody would challenge whatever it is that they're doing. The entire controversy seems to illustrate a sea change in teaching from an era when professors set the bar and expected the class to meet it, to the more supportive, student-centered approach. But the problem there is that there's a happy medium in between. Context matters, and if you really do want seriously dedicated students who exit with an education and not just a grade, wherein they will be able to leverage that learning, the knowledge, skills, and abilities from that class over to the next level of class, well, you have to set bars, you have to set limits, you have to set controls, and simply turning in the assignment has been historically supposed to be a C grade. It is average. It's what is expected. When you answer above and beyond, it's a B. When you are exceptional in your answer, it is an A. That does not always happen. Turn in the assignment, you get an A. The next article is Apple is the greatest stock of all time, says CNBC's Jim Cramer. That tells you right now, quick sell. Because Jim Cramer is demonstrably wrong, often enough to make me not even bother. He's there for entertainment. Mad Money host Jim Cramer advises investors to tenaciously hold on to Apple stock for the long term, regardless of me saying, yeah, I think it's a good thing to hold on to him too. I will obviously discount anything that Jim Cramer says. And we could spin it, pivot, change it so that it says the same thing and not be able to say that it's coming from Jim Cramer, just so that we can actually have some, settle down the cognitive dissonance that I agree with Jim Cramer. Well, William Gallagher over at Apple Insider wrote this article. Apple is the greatest stock of all time, says CNBC's Jim Cramer. Yes, and the spooky music in the background tells you, as I said earlier, it's October. Spooktober. Following a recent stock fall after rumors about iPhone 14 demand, CNBC personality Cramer has urged investors to not sell their Apple stocks. I am not your stock advisor. I am not your financial advisor. I will talk about Apple and in relation to their stock, even their stock, but I won't be giving you advice. I don't even think Jim Cramer should be. I think his track record is like 36% correct, but 64.8% of all stats are made up on the spot. According to Apple's own figures, the company's stock price has been falling during 2022. So 10 months of, barely 10 months of downward trend, apparently. At the start of the year, it was 182.01, whereas on October 3rd, 2022, it was down to 142. Yeah. And there may have been rises in March and August, but none exceeding the December figure. We're going to get more into this Apple kind of hammering of Apple. They have spectacular margins still. They are a grossly profitable company. Just because they aren't matching the expected growth percentage or some other thing, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Maybe it's because the irrational exuberance about the valuation of a company, not just Apple, but of companies, is coming to an end. But we'll run across this later on here. The next article is CD Projekt is also working on something brand new that it created from scratch. If you haven't heard, well, CDPR is coming out with projects, announcing 3, and then saying Hadar is a code name for a third entirely distinct IP created from scratch within CDPR, CD Projekt Red tweeted. The project is in the earliest stages of the creative process, which means that it's probably vaporware until whenever it actually goes from the earliest stages of the creative process, i.e. I don't know why anybody's talking about it, but I am, because it ended up in the aggregator in relation to other things that were announced, which was a whole new Witcher trilogy. They give their names in some other article that I read, and when I was going through today's news, I saw this. I think the other article is in the aggregator as well, over at ohmTown.com. Go check it out. But this one is written by Andy Chalk, a mystery project called Hadar, or Hold the Door. It's not Hodar, it's Hadar. Hadar is being concepted, really, in addition to the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel and new Witcher games. I don't know, unless the team is massive, it needs to focus on something and make it 100% before it gets out the door. Otherwise, it's just a hot mess. I don't know. So I'm looking forward to the Witcher trilogy, even though I don't really play them. I love watching people play them. It's kind of like my NFL. Despite being founded almost 30 years ago, CD Projekt has only developed games based on 2 properties, both of them licensed. The Witcher, a series of fantasy short stories and novels by Polish author Andrzej Sapkowski, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his first name right, and Cyberpunk, a tabletop RPG created by Mike Pondsmith. Both have been huge successes, turning CD Projekt Red into the biggest game makers in the world, but creating a wholly original setting for a new game falls well outside CD Projekt's established expertise. I don't know if that's really true. Taking other material and making it legit. Anyway, Hadar, by the way, is the proper name for Beta Centauri, a triple star system in the constellation Centaurus, but that doesn't necessarily point toward a sci-fi experience for CD Projekt's game. Correct. Good for you for making that distinction, Andy Chalk. Let's go on to the next article. This is in the crypto world, $4 billion. See, this is what I always am astonished by. Whenever something happens with crypto, it's always to the tune of billions of dollars that you hear about. I guess when it's only hundreds of millions or tens of millions, it doesn't really rise to the level through the filter of publication. $4 billion worth of illicit crypto are laundered through these 3 ways. And MarketWatch, I thought it was a CNBC article, writes about it, and Francis Yu talks about it, and my aggregator. Anyway, the proceeds used decentralized exchanges, bridges, and coin swap services. This is all stuff that is attached to the blockchain, but not necessarily part of it. So I just find it really interesting that it's these little tertiary services, not directly attached to mining, wherein the abuse happens. And when it gets transferred to some storage facility, that too is where A7 or Heavy, sorry. I blame time for my lateness too. You're not late, you're right on time. I have no expectation of performance there, Heavy. Appreciate you being here though. We are about halfway through. I was going to talk about this, but I'm not logged in, and I'm not going to log in. I'm just going to roll on through this. This next article. You know what? I'll post this here. It might come up for you. But this next one is about Elon Musk. I was actually talking to a group of people when I got an alert saying that Elon Musk is willing to pay full price for Twitter again after someone must have explained Delaware law to him. I laughed out loud, and then people in the room were like, okay, you're going to have to drop this one out there and let us know what you're giggling about up there. Well, Above the Law always has something humorous to say when they post things about anything law related. Settling for everything is always a sign that you've got the other side right where you want them. Joe Patrice over at AboveTheLaw.com writes, Elon Musk just announced that he seems willing to purchase Twitter again at the original price of $54.20. I guess I'll say it that way. $54.20 per share. My gosh. Which was interesting because the moment that somebody announced this somewhere, so where I got it from was 5 minutes after trading started spiking. So when you talk about full information and everybody on an even keel for their trading, somewhere out there, someone had a 5-minute lead. So they made money more than other people made money in the trading schema. Because by the time I found out about it, it was $8 higher than where it started. And then the stock was frozen. So unless it's addicted to living dangerously, which is a possibility, let's assume that this is a serious offer and not a bid to jerk around the market just to stall his deposition and looming trial, because that tactic would not end well for him. He's a billionaire, politically connected. I'd say that he's kind of untouchable. I don't think anybody's going to mess with him. And even if you do, a slap on the wrist of what? Even if you hammer him with $1 billion, he'll make it back in 15 minutes, for crying out loud. Twitter stock immediately spiked, and trading has since been halted due to the volume. But it's so like the stock market puts brakes on things, either highs or lows. And I don't know, when it's climbing and somebody's at the bottom of that and it's climbing and making money, nobody complains, but everybody starts complaining when it's too high, hence the breaks. Same thing with the bottoms. Let me rephrase that. The declines. Phrasing, Merawatt phrasing. If there's anything else in this article, you can go and find out about it. But it says, because make no mistake, defendants don't settle for 100% before trial if they think there's even a chance of frightening the plaintiff. So Musk bluffed and flinched. That's not what they say. That's what I say. They say Musk bluffed and lost. The only way to deal with people like Musk was depicted in detail in the movie Deliverance. Oh boy. Heavy. I am almost afraid to let that scroll across the chat for the VOD. Oh boy. No, I cannot agree with that. Inside my head, I'm giggling at what you're saying, but you really have to read AboveTheLaw.com on the regular, because their articles are hilarious. It says, unless his apparent new role as Putin's top diplomat increased his urgency to buy the platform to start permabanning everyone sporting Ukrainian flags, though we'll stick with the most likely reason, which is the legal outcome of this is that not only does he not get forced to pay $54.20 per share, but he gets fined $1 billion. He has to pay $1 billion and not get anything. Talk about bolstering the coffers of Twitter and not having the ability to quote unquote democratize communication in the Twitterverse. Hate to break it to you, you can say and do literally anything on Twitter. It's all about a popularity game. You know, I can sit there and say all kinds of stuff. It can be a veritable dumpster fire of communication in Twitter. But you're not going to be heard because you're not going to be heard. When you lie, manipulate, do all kinds of stuff, let me tell you, you should be blocked, silenced, banned, whatever. 1 second. So, yeah, Heavy says town square. Musk forgot the mob rules the town square. He literally can say whatever he wants, and the mob of people that follow him will get pointed wherever he says point. He says jump, and people don't ask how high, they just start jumping. He's not silenced. Countless others are not silenced. But when you lie or say something wholly illegal, slanderous, libelous, and a notice is given, a legal notice is given, Safe Harbor requires you to take action. You can't just ignore it wholesale. So the reality of this is, I'm sure that somebody on the inside explained this, that the chances of success are zero, and the way that things went down, we're going to fall in Twitter's direction. Well, I think the bigger problem now is, even if Twitter, if it does close the deal, which stockholders have already said, yeah, let's sell, this thing is going to get privatized. Whatever is going to go on is going to go on, and then either one of two things is going to happen. It's going to be left alone the way that it is, arguably getting rid of bots, and all of that wealth is going to be generating money for the private owners of the business, or they're going to do something and then re-IPO. But I don't know how that will ever work. Privatizing it and then redoing an IPO at a later date basically is like a reissuance, and it's going to have the exact same valuation except for the FOMO juice being squeezed out of it. There are going to be people who think that this reissue is going to raise the value because it's Elon Musk at the helm of this, and he can't stop talking to save his life. And now it's going to have a greater valuation. And whoever does this reissuance is going to make sure that the stock stays above a certain price at its initial release, kind of churning out, buying the stock and selling the stock, which is what happened with Facebook. Just so the IPO is valued at X, guaranteeing the IPO is profitable. But I could imagine on the other side that the IPO would collapse. I think that there's too much heavy lifting involved, and I don't think that anything is going to happen. Even if he does buy it, what he's going to come across is that, oh crap, everybody was doing what they could. Nobody was really being silenced. Yeah, there's a bunch of bots, but hell, a lot of them were doing things, in our side of the favor, not their side of the favor. And it's going to end up being nothing, absolutely nothing at the end of the day. And the stock will settle back down to $37 within a year of whenever they pivot. Yeah. A, the mob can turn in an instant. B, yes, bots do all sorts of things. I've seen bots talking to bots about bots. It's just one of those things. Your fave is the Fiona Apple bot. Doesn't ring a bell, but I've forgotten a lot. Let's face it, I'm getting old. The next article, though, is over in Hatch Ideas about Peloton. Do you have a Peloton? Do you ride a stationary bike and get yelled at by trainers? Peloton is trying to re-energize sales by placing bikes where people can see and touch them, like malls and hotels. Some experts say it won't make much of a difference. I am not categorized as an expert. I can self-proclaim myself an expert. Other people might say that I'm an expert, probably not on the internet, because everybody thinks that everybody else is a complete idiot on the internet. But I don't think that this will re-energize Peloton. I think Peloton had hit its peak during the pandemic, and instead of seeing the forest for the trees, they thought that they would be able to maintain that growth. Hopefully they've put a ton of money away and extended their runway, and then they can gracefully decline into stasis. But other than the population growing, I don't see Peloton. I think we are at peak Peloton, kind of like peak oil, and just we're not going to see much more. Peloton has enacted several changes since new CEO Barry McCarthy took over in February. In the past week, Peloton announced partnerships with Dick's and Hilton to attract more customers. The company's glory days are likely over, and changes won't boost sales, retail analysts say. Yeah, I've been saying that since, well, the beginning of this year, I'd say. You know, since I started streaming. We're now at 10 months, right? We're in the 10th month of me streaming. And I've been saying that since the beginning. I don't think that there is much pedal power left. And they're expending money trying to do things that are... that's funny. Heavy says, Peloton's problem is McCarthyism. Yikes. Lakshmi Varanasi is the author of this article over at Business Insider, with one of the largest URLs that I have thrown into my chat. If I was still streaming to YouTube, it probably would have kicked that URL out. So their highlights pretty much are what I was already saying. I just don't see Peloton going anywhere unless they manage to sell Peloton brand accounts, memberships at gyms. People want to go to the gym. People want to be around other people in person when they are exercising. They like going on group rides. They like having the competition, but going with other people, meeting other people, that's part of the experience of working out. I don't, but other people do, all you young folk out there. Hello, fellow young people. Anyway, on Monday, the company announced that Peloton treadmills would also be placed in Hilton's 5,400 branded hotels across the country. I'm not sure if that is at such a deep discount that it's almost, maybe they're making 3% on that sale. I don't know if they're actually being bought at $5,000 a piece, because that would make a ton of money for Peloton. But if when you go to a Hilton hotel and you have a Peloton account, you can just log into your Peloton account, add a bike, and off you go. And it's simply to get the name out there and to allow people to maintain their Peloton account, because that's where there's a lot of juice. Again, I have the tonal, and so it's an on par kind of pricing. It's a little bit less than a Peloton, but there is on par level of membership account where you're working out, but you don't have that whole grind with somebody else's, or with a whole bunch of people working out at the same time. Everybody's interacting on your screen and stuff like that. Yeah, if you can take your account to any gym, I think that's where the real value is too. And that's what I have been saying for the last 9 months. Sticking these bikes in a gym allows a person to take their account wherever they want, activate it on that bike, log out when they're done, and be off. And it literally becomes the focus of Peloton. Instead of the bike, they also have now a rowing machine. I think it's called Row. and a treadmill, which I think they call tread, or treadmill. I don't know anymore. But looking back at Peloton, I think that we are definitely peak post Peloton. And the experts are saying Peloton is sitting around with excess inventory and they need it to move. Siegel told Insider that he is normally a very vocal supporter of wholesale partnerships like the one Peloton has struck with Dick's Sporting Goods. I don't think that there's a big enough margin there. They actually started producing their products in other countries, not within the United States. And from what I had read in the last couple of months, the quality of the welding and the stability, I guess, is now in question. Then run promotional programs with hotels and travel agencies, discounted bikes, introductory program rates. Yep. Basically get people into the membership and maintain it. Don't make it so exorbitant that people flinch every time they get that notice that a payment to Peloton has gone through. But I think it's sometimes like $60 or something like that a month, which is a little wild. So Peloton bikes normally retail for around $2,500, while its treadmills are $3,500. This past March, Peloton launched a rental program which allows customers to try the bikes for as little as $89 a month. If they're leasing it, that's fine. You can get rid of it at any time. But I don't like anything proprietary. I mean, this is the equipment, the material that you can take from Peloton and clamp on to any stationary bike would be great. And I think a competitor with that strategic advantage could do Peloton in completely. And basically you charge for the membership and a lower cost clamp on type of thing, where the sensors are tracking the bike. It could be nothing more than, it really depends on all of the machinations you want to inject into some competitor service. But suffice it to say that Peloton has really reached the end of the road, so to speak. So let's keep on hustling through this. I only have one more article, but this one is one that actually kind of triggered me. And so I want to talk about it for a little bit. And I'd say if you have some money, no, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to give financial advice. Don't short Peloton. Anyway, this article is over at Business Insider. I read a little bit of it before because I didn't want to go into this completely blind, and have no perception of what is going on in this article. Why would they do this? Why would they say this in such a clickbaity way? But here goes. It's in the Hatch Ideas channel, which is all about business, transformation, innovation. Apple is selling fear disguised as innovation. And when I read that title in ohmTown, wow, this is a really weird hot take on this. I mean, this is such a risky hot take. It almost screams absurdity. Apple's according to this article, and we'll get to the article itself here in a minute. I just want to read the snippet so you know what I saw when I was going through the news today. Apple's innovation hasn't just slowed, it has plateaued. Boring is what's new. Instead of aspirational products that inspire creativity, Apple is marketing fear. The implied message is, if you want to live, buy our stuff. And then they reach back 9 years to talk about Phil Schiller, the company's then SVP for Apple marketing, proudly introduced the Mac Pro after extolling its features. He smiled and said, "Can't innovate anymore, my ass." This is 9 years ago that this person jumped in their Wayback Machine and decided to dredge something like that, which has been gone and buried and ignored and summarily dismissed, unlike Microsoft's programmers, or whatever it was he said. Well, this article is by Michael Gartenberg, and says 3 things in their little analysis. Apple's innovation hasn't just slowed, it has plateaued. Boring is what's new. Instead of aspirational products that inspire creativity, Apple is marketing fear. And the implied message, this is the third one, the implied message is, if you want to live, buy our stuff. So that was in the snippet of the article over at ohmTown that was aggregated from businessinsider.com. So who is this person? Well, they were involved with Apple. They were part of marketing. They reach back into the Wayback Machine, and they say, fast forward. Oh, okay, we'll start at the top of this, right? They talk about the Mac Pro and saying that it landed with a thud. Well, yeah, it was ultimately a boring design, and people mocked it because of the design, right? All it was a cylinder. I thought that it was beautiful, but you could kill it by putting a piece of paper on top of it, and no heat could evacuate, so it would overheat and die. And it looked like a trash can, and people were like, blah, 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 trash can, right? But it was innovative design. It really was. Apple really didn't know what users wanted. Innovation was slowing. This is what they say. 9 years ago, about 2 years after Steve Jobs passed away, Apple didn't really know what to do. Product introductions in 2013 and 2014 were larger phones, AMOLED displays, and smartwatches, all long-standing entries in competitors' product lines that Apple had previously dismissed. You mean like a phone? I mean, the phone existed and the iPhone came out as a slab. That was the innovation. But no, that's not what the innovation truly was. The innovation was that it was a silo with an operating system, or I should say it was a silo of an operating system that afforded developers to add to it. It was completely built by Apple under Apple's control, not like Windows or Android, where it's slapped on to dozens of competitors and everybody is fighting for market share. Apple is a one-stop shop. I've said it before. If you didn't go out and buy additional stuff in the App Store, you could do everything that the equipment is designed to do by Apple. You don't have to go somewhere else. But you always have to add to Android or Windows or any other operating system. To do the full functionality, you have to go somewhere else. Apple provides everything you need. Now, what you want is another thing. Well, it says, what about Apple Watch or AirPods? They say both are nice, high-margin additions to sell iPhone users, much like ordering fries and a large drink go with a burger. I'm not sure about that. Apple Watch is a new element, and I'm trying to get to the point where they're talking about how it's fear. Now, they say fast forward to September 2022. After watching the latest Apple product introduction event, the author believes that Apple hasn't just slowed, it's plateaued, at least for the time being, and says boring is what's new. So I want to jump down a little bit more. It says, under leadership of Tim Cook, Apple has released many boring products, but has sold tens of millions of them. I don't know about that. They've continued to innovate. They've created their own fab. They've licensed their own chip to the point where they are in control of one of the most important fundamental aspects of a computer, the CPU, and expanded beyond anything that they've ever done before. Their ultra chips are enterprise level chips, server level chips. This person thinks that innovation doesn't even amount to anything, but it changes the dynamic of what Apple is capable of doing. they own their own chip. If they save up enough money or do another stock reissue, they could probably buy their own fab from TSMC and have their own fab building their chips. I mean, this is no plateau of innovation. They're absurd. This person has to be doing this to draw the ire out of people like me, who sees Apple's innovation constantly growing, there's something else on the horizon. I think that it's AR, but all of it, and my point for all of this, and let's see, we'll continue on. It says iPhones now have a feature for connecting satellites to call for help when you're stranded in a dark, snow-covered mountain in a storm. They offer collision detection and call 911 when you're in a car crash. Apple is about quality of life, benefiting the quality of life. It allows you to track your location, but that doesn't divulge its information to everybody, and definitely not to some third party without your knowledge, right? You get in a car accident, the first thing you do isn't go, well, gee, I wonder if my phone has the ability to make a 911 call when you've got an Android phone. But you know now that your phone or your watch can call 911 because it's detected a car crash. Now, is it the sole reason? No, that's not why I'm buying an Apple Watch. But it isn't because of fear that I buy an Apple Watch or an Apple phone. It's because I no longer, well, first off, I want that ecosystem. It's frictionless, but it has this neat new feature that I never even knew that I wanted until it actually came into existence, which is exactly what Apple's mantra is. They create stuff before you even know you want it. And I say this regularly when I give speeches, when I talk to people. You don't know what you don't know until somebody comes along and says, hey, what about this? And I've done this countless times with people, dating all the way back to high-speed internet's introduction as a digital subscriber line, DSL lines. Back before 2 monitors on a desktop were in vogue, I was telling people, y'all need to get a second monitor. To people in business and elsewhere, hey, you have no idea what you're missing. And again, high-speed internet, again and again, iteratively high-speed internet. Wi-Fi technology evolves faster than wired lines, and it's easier to update all kinds of stuff, right? You don't know what you don't know until somebody who does know shows you that wisdom. So is Apple trying to scare you into buying stuff? No. It's adding onto it so that your quality of life is better. So ECG, for crying out loud, that right there has actually saved lives. You know, I monitor myself on the regular. When you get into your late 40s, early 50s, you too might find it interesting. But it's not like a person is obsessing about it unless they have something that is medically known. It's just a neat thing to show off. And I think it's nothing more than this writer's projection. And we'll get down into where they say Michael Gartenberg is a former senior marketing executive at Apple and has covered the company for more than 2 decades at Gartner, Jupiter Research, Altimeter Group. This has to be nothing more than trying to push people into responding like this, because no press is bad press. And for them to sit there and say that Mac anything landed with a thud is completely wrong. They continue to sell massive amounts of products. So Apple, when you compare Apple to other people in the sector. Here's why I think that anybody analyzing Apple against the rest of the competitors in the space have it completely wrong. It is because Apple right here is listed as the number 4 most shipped product, right? So number 5, if you pull all others, right, up above, but named single source shipments, right? Lenovo's number 1, HP's number 2, Dell is number 3, and then you have Apple. The difference between Lenovo, HP, Dell, Acer, Asus, and all of the others is that they are OEM distributors, manufacturers. They take the parts from everywhere when they're white label, or even gray label, slap them into their device and ship them out with either Windows or Android or whatever it might be. Apple is a complete vertical, self-enclosed. They do everything from end to end, and their market is 30%. They are a juggernaut in this space. Nobody else sells Apple products, right? You get licensed to say that you are approved by Apple for your cables, for your cases, for whatever it might be. You're Apple approved if you want to be legitimately accepted by Apple. Yet they are the number 4 product, 6,363. I think it's millions of units. It's thousands of units. So 6.3 million units. And their margin is 30%. Typically. They are a juggernaut, right? So here it says Mac shipments were up despite severe supply constraints, and saw some MacBook Pro models delayed for multiple weeks or even months, and Apple was the only vendor to see positive growth. No, Apple is innovative. Apple is selling like crazy. Apple should be trending up in its stock. But people are flinching because the economy in general is on the verge of recession. With interest rates for homes hitting 7% and CPI and PPI on the verge of going back up, kind of like a dead cat bounce that didn't hit the bottom hard enough. It just kind of dipped, and then now it's going to go back up. That's my interpretation of it. So in the United States, Apple shipped an estimated 3.1 million Macs in Q2 of 2022, up 19.5%, while everybody else just kind of bleh. Yeah, HP Q2 22 growth negative 43.5%. So tell me where I'm wrong, folks. Tell me where this dude from Apple or from Business Insider has it right that Apple is selling fear. You know, you don't get that type of sales on the idea that you are apparently just trying to scare people into buying a product. I don't buy it. And I definitely don't see it. The writing is not on the wall for Apple. And earlier I said that Cramer, let me scroll back a little bit. Jim Cramer says that Apple is actually like a good thing. And that kind of spooks me. I don't really like agreeing with Jim Cramer because he generally gets it wrong. And is more about hype than anything else. I'm trying to find the article, but I can't, so I'll just move on. So let me know either, in chat or in comments or email or in Discord. There is a Discord. You can get there from my channel. If you listen to this as the VOD, please let me know. Like, get in touch with me somehow. I don't know if I'll stick to Twitter or if Elon Musk buys Twitter. I don't know if the algorithm would probably suppress me because I'm not his type, I suppose. At any rate, that is it for today's ohmTown Daily News Show. I will be here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. There are some things going on that I may not be able to hit that 6 o'clock mark. I'll try and let everybody know in advance. But if you follow me, you'll get an alert when I go live. And even if you make it late, I enjoy the company. I really do. So come whenever you can. Really appreciate it. And thanks for the support. And I hope you like my scary music. Thanks, Heavy. Appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.